Welcome to our mega session!
Woo!
Our last mega meal marathon has been watched by over 250,000 people. Can you believe
that? That is so many!
We know that you've been waiting for another one. We have been anxious to bring it to you, and today we are so excited because this is the day. If you're finding that meal times are too stressful, that groceries are too expensive, and you're just feeling too frazzled, then stick with us today because we are going to show you a better way. We are going to take away the stress of meal planning. And be sure to stick with us because later in this video, we are going to be sharing all of our best time-saving and money-saving tips. So let's get to it.
My son is playing volleyball in junior high. They ended up having 10 games because they were filling in for another school that backed out. My voice is hoarse. His voice is hoarse from all the yelling and all the cheering. And I wish I could say that they won the whole thing for all their effort, but my goodness, I did take home a very, very tired boy that night. And freezer meals for the win. I was still able to feed my family because I had a freezer full of meals.
Which is so awesome.
It really, really is. So Charlotte's going to do the heavy lifting on the talking today. Usually I'm pretty chatty, but you don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. She doesn't want to hear this. Nobody asked for this, and I'm sorry the timing couldn't be better for what I sound like. And if you do like this gravelly voice, you can check out my other YouTube channel. No, I'm joking. I don't have that kind of channel. I don't have any other kind of channel. We just do the freezer meals. This sheet pan sweet and sour meatballs is one of our favorites. It is one that you can find in our sheet pan freezer meal cooking class, and the link for that is down below in the description. And we're doing this one first because we had the large Costco bag of meatballs and we needed to use them up because they take up a lot of space, and as you know, on a mega meal session we need a lot of space. So let's get these into our bags that we have here. One of those big Costco bags makes 4 of this meal perfectly. The first thing I'm going to do is make the sauce. For all 4, we're going to add in brown sugar, flour, vinegar, water, soy sauce, and a little dollop of ketchup for each of them, so it ends up being a big dollop. And what I wished I had done when I was making this was I should have mixed the brown sugar and the flour together first so that the flour was broken up a little bit, because once I started adding the liquids, it was a little bit clumpy. So then I had to get the whisk out because it wasn't nice and smooth, but that's okay. We got it in the end. I've also gone and divided that big bag of Costco meatballs into the 4 freezer bags. It fits perfectly. I add some green beans to each one, some pineapple slices that have been canned and drained, and some sliced onion. Then I'm very carefully, with great skill, I'm going to divide this bowl evenly.
The one pot taco spaghetti is so flavorful and delicious, especially considering there are not very many ingredients in here. You've got your ground beef or veggie beef that's been browned. Now I used a Mexican veggie beef here for mine, and in Christie's it's regular ground beef. Then added some minced onion, taco seasoning, and a can of Rotel into our large freezer bag here. Then in a medium, that's a quart size freezer bag, I'm going to add about a ½ cup of shredded cheese, just some cheddar there. And then we're going to get the air out of both bags, staple them together above the seal. Stapling them together ensures that they will stay together and you won't lose them. And of course, doing it above the seal ensures that you won't get any leaks in your bag. When you go to cook this one, it's so easy because your pasta cooks up right in the sauce.
Mississippi pot roast has become one of our favorites. It shot to stardom this year because we had to figure out something to do with all the pepperoncini peppers that I had left over, and this was the perfect solution, really. So in our bag, we're starting out with the chuck roast. We're adding in the pepperoncini peppers and the juice, and a half a cup of butter. And you can just blob it in there. It's all going to go in the slow cooker in the end, and it doesn't matter. We're going to open up a package of the au jus gravy mix and a package of dry ranch. Now, we get it in bulk at the bulk store, so we do 3 generous tablespoons, and that seems to equal the amount that you get in a dry ranch packet. We're going to add some salt and pepper and seal it up, and that's it. The Southern style ground beef casserole was one that we were making by, I think, my special request. It is really delicious and it's so fast. We call it a casserole because I think originally we had talked about putting this one in the slow cooker, but we discovered, like, because it's really just the onions, well, there's a few things in it that need to be cooked, but you can just do it in a skillet. You just get it nice and hot in the skillet, make sure that your vegetables are softened a bit, and you put some cheese on it, and man, this is the fastest, easiest, so delicious recipe, but we still call it a casserole, which I think is kind of cute. And this was a Charlotte invention. This was one that we came up with, she came up with. At the end, you'll see at the end that she will do it again, where we have a few things left over at the end, where either we made too much or we bought too much. It doesn't matter, because she will find a way to use it, because we're certainly not going to throw it out. So we start out here in our bags with our ground beef that's been browned. We're going to add in some chopped onion, some chopped green pepper, some kernel corn. You could use frozen, but it's okay out of a can too. Some tomato sauce, some Worcestershire sauce, some chili powder, and salt and pepper. Sometimes we will add cheese into a medium freezer bag and staple them together. Other times, depending on how much we have or what we have planned, we just make a note on the label that says add cheese at the end of cooking. But when we bought the cheese for this one, we bought the Tex-Mex cheese, we knew that we had extra. So we went ahead and put it in the medium bags, which makes it really nice to have for the day of cooking, to have it all done ahead of time.
Christy and I have been doing freezer meals together for almost 12 years.
12 years.
So we are kind of freezer meal experts because we were both doing freezer meals on our own even before.
You're gonna have a cat in the shot.
Yeah. You're going out for the whole day.
The whole day. Goodbye, Willow.
One of our first times meeting, we were like, she noticed a cookbook on my shelf that was freezer cooking, and so she asked if I did freezer cooking,
and we did, and we both did, and 5,000 meals later, I think we consider ourselves experts.
Yeah, and I think we're probably nearing the 6,000 mark. So how geeky is it that we sat there and figured it out? But right, it was fun.
We did. It's an estimate, but it's been a lot of meals. I don't know about you, but I've been getting low on freezer meals at my house.
Yes.
I cook differently than how we make freezer meals. We ate a lot of beef. We made roasts. There was steak. I made beef stew. And I mean, we have beef stew. We make it in the club. But it was my home cooking. It was different. But let me tell you, every day at 4 o'clock, I'm like,
oh no.
What am I going to make? I don't have a freezer meal.
Like last night, we were eating at, 8 or 9 o'clock because dinner just
didn't happen.
Happening around these parts because the freezer is empty. And we'll get to why it's empty in a little bit here, but we're going to get back to some meals. For our ground beef stroganoff, I'm using veggie beef in my bags and regular ground beef in Christy's bags. Both of those have been browned. Then gonna add some chopped onion, minced garlic. Now we use our garlic from a jar because we go through so much minced garlic, especially in these mega marathons. It's just a lot faster, saves us time. Then we're gonna add some sliced mushrooms, Worcestershire sauce, some cream of mushroom soup, sour cream, parsley, and a dash of pepper. That's it. We're gonna squish everything together in the bag to combine it. We're gonna take out the excess air. Now, a really important thing for you to know is that when you're freezer cooking, air is the enemy. Air is what causes your freezer burn, and nobody wants freezer burn, especially when you're putting this much effort into making all these meals. Once you take the air out, you're just gonna lay it flat and freeze.
This tried and true recipe of ours is probably one of our all-time favorites. It is just taco meat, but it is taco meat with a zip, let me tell you that. We start out in our bags with our ground beef that's been browned already. We're going to add in some minced onion, some taco seasoning. Now, it seems like we are going through a lot of taco seasoning this time, but you know, a packet of taco seasoning has 4 tablespoons in it, and we're putting it in 4 meals here. So that's 16 tablespoons of taco seasoning. So it's not a surprise that we're actually going through quite a bit. We're going to also add in tomato sauce, some chili sauce, and some cheddar cheese that's been shredded, which is so nice to already have into the taco meat before you even start making your tacos.
For the tamale casserole, this is a brand new to us recipe and we're excited to give it a try. Now, for the recipes that are new to us, I can't tell you what our opinion is yet. So one of the things that we do after these big mega sessions is we do an exclusive for club members video where we tell you exactly what we thought of each recipe. Now, we're very honest in those, so we tell you whether it was good, bad, or ugly. And so for this tamale casserole, we shall see. The verdict is not in yet. But what we're gonna do is in our large freezer bag, we've got our ground beef that's been browned, or our veggie beef. Then we're gonna add some diced onion, minced garlic, a green pepper that's diced, some corn. Now you could add frozen corn here, or because we were able to get corn in the case lot sale, we've got cans of corn and we've just drained those. Then some taco seasoning, tomato sauce, salt, and pepper. In a medium-sized bag, we're gonna put a cup of shredded Tex-Mex cheese. We're gonna get the air out of both of those bags and kind of give that main bag a squish to combine everything. We're gonna staple those bags together above the seal. Now, for this one, you are going to need some cornbread mix for the day that you make it, because this is gonna lay in the bottom of your casserole dish. You're gonna mix up some cornbread mix with some milk and egg and put that on top, and that's what's gonna make your tamale casserole. I'm really interested to try this one because here in Canada where we are, tamale casserole is not a very common recipe. So I know that in some parts of the States and other parts of the world it is more common, and we just love trying new recipes and especially trying things with a lot of flavor. So I'm looking forward to this one. So I'm going to share a little bit about how we chose the recipes for this particular mega session. One of the things we always do is choose based on the season. So unfortunately, we're going into winter. We live in Canada and it has actually snowed.
It has snowed. It has happened.
So we chose recipes that are comfort foods, and we chose some soups and some pastas and that really winter feel. So that was part of it. And then also, I don't know if you've noticed, but groceries are getting expensive.
Wildly expensive.
And, we're on budgets, we've got families, and so we chose somewhat based on what we already had in our pantry, what we already had in our freezer. And a few months ago, there was a case lot sale that happened to coincide with a 15% off day at our local grocery store. And so we took advantage of that case lot sale, of course, because doing freezer meals allows you to take advantage of those
Yes, it does.
things. So we also based some of these recipes based on what we had cases of, because we need to use those up.
We need to use those up. I thought it was very weird when I was at Costco and there was no diced tomatoes or tomato sauce on my list. And usually I'll phone you and I'll be like, did you miss this?
Yes.
And this time I'm like, oh, I know. There are cases of diced tomatoes sitting in your pantry.
We chose the recipes based, also on what we like and whatever. But one of the things that we do is for these mega sessions, we want to try new recipes and test them so that we can bring the very best recipes to you, and so that we can figure out what freezes well and thaws and heats well, and then we can then put those recipes in the club and we can make it so we offer the very, very best recipes. Now, a few things on that. One is, if you're trying a new recipe that you've never had before, we suggest that you only make one of that recipe. So you'll notice today some of the meals we've got 4 of. That means that we've probably made it before, or we're really, really sure it's gonna work and the flavors are gonna be things our families like. But if you see that we're only making 2 of that recipe, it means we're making 1 for Christy's house, 1 for my house, and we're not sure. It's an experiment.
Right, because not only does it have to freeze well, defrost well, cook well, it has to taste good. And there have been some that we've gotten all the way to that part where we're eating it and it's like,
Yeah.
So sometimes we say, what could we do differently to save it? And we rework it and we try it again. Sometimes it's like, no, that's not going to work for us or for our family.
And there's a few recipes that are brand new that we're doing 4 of because we're trying a few different variations.
Oh yes, I'm excited about those ones.
Yes. So that way, again, we can bring the very best to you. But I did want to talk to you for a second about when you're choosing your recipes, when you're preparing your shopping list and your prep list to get everything all together. Normally, what you could do is you could join our Freezer Meals 101 club, which has all these great tried and true recipes in it. And then you could just pick the ones you want, create a meal plan. It would spit out your shopping list. You can even change the serving size so it's exactly perfect, exactly what you want. Spit out that shopping list. It even gives you a prep list. So then you know how many onions to dice versus slice versus mint. How many sweet potatoes do you need to cube? All of those things.
All of the things.
How much meat do you have to brown? You would know it all. And then of course you're gonna print off your labels with the cooking instructions. For us, even though we invented the club, we can't use it for these mega sessions. We use it for other sessions.
We use it for other things.
But we can't use it for these mega sessions because we're doing so many brand new recipes that aren't yet in the club because they're not tested and whatever.
We have to do our due diligence here, which means we are starting from scratch, which means Charlotte's got these lists.
Terrible, like a very cluttered rough draft of the grocery list where I've got tally marks for, how many pounds of ground beef do we need and how many minced onions and how many diced onions and how many sliced onions, and it is a mess.
It's a mess. It gives me an idea of what it might be like inside your brain. Like, I always laugh at your lists. Okay, it's not even just that list. She's a list person and they are everywhere, and there's little bits of paper I can't have. She has a system for her lists, which I love the systems for your lists.
Understands the system, but...
And I love that about Charla and your weird little brain. Your weird big brain, because you come up with some good ones.
You did come over the other day because I was like, I don't have time to figure out which of the spices that I
came and did spice inventory.
And they were in the margin, like the spices were in the, so I just told her, like, the list is on the counter. I was out getting my groceries. I was like, the list is on the counter. The spices are in the margin. You're gonna have to look in the spice cupboard, look in the margin.
Totally fine. Okay, so when we first started doing this job as a job, like, she's been a blogger for a long time. But when I started to work with her, I thought, what is my title? What is my role here? So I decided it was Director of Spice Management because I seemed to know what was going on in her spice cupboard more than she did.
I'm going to show you the spice cupboard.
Let's show them. Because it's something. And that's just part of it.
This is another new one, and we are both so excited about this one. We've been trying to make more Mediterranean style meals because they're supposed to be really healthy for you. And while we don't always eat healthy, we try to add it in as much as we can to our diet, and if it tastes delicious, why not? So this is a roasted Mediterranean vegetable and halloumi sheet pan meal. And we both like halloumi cheese, and we both love vegetables. We've tried so many sheet pan meals that have worked well, so we're actually taking a bit of a risk today, and we are making 4 of these, even though we've never tried it before. So into our large freezer bag, we're going to add that halloumi that has been cut into cubes. Then we're gonna add in some coarsely chopped zucchini, butternut squash, and purple onion, Also some red, yellow, and orange peppers that are coarsely chopped. Some whole garlic cloves. So this is the first time I think in our freezer meal making history that my hands are going to smell like garlic for days from peeling this, because we always just use that minced garlic. And we're gonna add in some olive oil, salt, and pepper. That's everything that's going into our large freezer bag, but in a bowl, we're gonna mix together some sauce for the day of serving. And that is going to be some chopped fresh parsley, some minced garlic, lemon juice, cider vinegar, salt, pepper, and olive oil. We're gonna stir that all together, and we're going to pour that into a quart-sized freezer bag. We're gonna staple the bags together, of course, above the seal, and get those into the freezer.
Chicken in a mango cream sauce is probably Charlotte's #1 meal that we make, easily in the top 5.
Definitely.
Definitely. And it is really good. And it's so simple because on the day of cooking, you are really just getting it hot in the pan and throwing it on some spaghetti noodles. And it is so fast, but so flavorful. So this is some of the boneless, skinless chicken breasts that we had cooked and cubed. We're going to add in some purple onion that's been really thinly sliced. We'll also add in some green pepper, some minced garlic out of the jar, the Madras curry paste, which, you know, if we really took an inventory in Charlotte's fridge, there might be 2 or 3 open cans of this. Like, I think she uses this on a pretty regular basis, and I had never heard of it before I met her. We're going to add in some flour. Normally we don't add flour right into the freezer meal, but in this one it seems to work. We're going to take a minute and seal those bags up and give them a good shake so that the flour evenly coats all of the chicken and vegetables that are in the bag already. And we're going to add in chicken broth, mango tangerine juice, but I think it's just mango juice today. But if you can find mango tangerine juice, that's what you should use. Some evaporated milk, some mango chutney, and some red chili pepper flakes. We're going to mix this all together into our bag and seal it up and freeze it.
The one pot Cajun chicken pasta is so flavorful. This is one of our favorites. Delicious, plus it's less dishes because it all cooks up in one pot on the day you go to make this. So into your large freezer bag, you're going to add some chicken breasts that have been already cooked and cubed. Then some Cajun seasoning, a sliced red pepper, sliced yellow pepper, and some sliced purple onion, minced garlic, again from a jar, some chicken broth, or you can add the chicken broth on the day that you go to make this if you want to make more space in your freezer and not have your bag be so thick. And you're going to add a can of diced tomatoes with spicy red pepper, some heavy cream or whipped cream, and some cream cheese. We find that the cream cheese just distributes a little bit better if you cube it, so we always cube ours. Add some parsley, salt, and pepper, all going into your large resealable freezer bag. Of course, you're gonna get the air out of that, seal it and freeze it. You can find most of these recipes, including this one, in the description down below. Now, the reason that we haven't done a mega session in so long, and we literally ran out of freezer meals and have empty freezers, is because we did a kitchen reno.
You know, sometimes you just got to live your life along with this glamorous YouTube lifestyle. And you know how renos go. Sometimes they take a little longer.
It took over time and over budget. So, of course, and you know, we're happy with the results so far. You can't quite see from your vantage point, but it's not totally done.
Well, and you'll see in the hustle and bustle part of the video, and what you also can't see is the pot lights that are coming.
So
Yay.
it's gonna just keep getting better and better and better, and I think it was probably worth those, maybe a week and a half of us both having to worry about what's for dinner. And also, I think it might have been good because it helps give us more empathy for those of you that live like that on a regular basis. And we used to, and we kind of remember what it was like. Mm-hmm. But once in a while, it's good to get a reminder. And then we know how important this is, what we're teaching you, because it's a terrible feeling when you get to 4 o'clock and you're like, I don't know what to make.
I don't know what to make. It is an awful feeling. So there are a few things we can celebrate also about this kitchen. There used to be this awesome, awful electrical outlet that stuck up out of the Formica to countertop, and it is now gone. So it's one of the things that you can't see. It will be coming on the sides here soon, which is, you know, much nicer for everybody.
Handy and beautiful.
And hidden. And it is just so bright and cheerful in here, and I think it's just really great that you did this. I'm so glad that you did this.
It's definitely made our already huge kitchen seem even huger.
That's right. But, you know, when you have 7 kids, you need a huge kitchen. This is true.
True story.
This is true.
Okay, we're going to show you some more meals.
This one pot pasta puttanesca is like taking a train to Flavortown. It's true. It is a vegetarian one. Okay, no, asterisk. It is close to being vegetarian because it does have anchovy paste in it, and we use chicken broth. Those are not vegetarian items. But it is meatless. How about that? It is a meatless meal that we make, and it is really, really good. So we are going to add some San Marzano tomatoes, and it says in the recipe to break them up with your fingers. And well, I had an onion cutting injury, so I have a Band-Aid on one hand, and who wants to touch slimy tomatoes? So what I did was I put them in the bag first, and then I squished them through the bag so I could keep my hands clean, and I was a little vigorous in the beginning, and you can see I've made a bit of a mess. Here's a tip for you. If you don't want your bags to freeze together, you need to keep them dry. So you can see that I take great care in cleaning this up, but also drying off my bags. So once I have my mess cleaned up, I can continue on. We add in olive oil, anchovy paste, some garlic, and I mean a lot of garlic when I say some garlic. It asks for 4 cloves, and I have a heavy hand in the garlic department anyway. Some pitted and halved Kalamata olives, capers, which we are also very generous with because we have a metric ton of capers that we bought and we have to use them up, and red pepper flakes, and then we add in that chicken broth. You can use vegetable broth if you want to keep this vegetarian, and you can omit the anchovy paste. And a little bit of salt and pepper, and that's it.
Lately, we have been on a bit of a gnocchi kick. We had a time a few months ago where gnocchi was massively on sale, and so I decided to try to invent some gnocchi recipes and experiment, see how they froze and cooked up after, and we made some really delicious ones. So I've chosen 2 gnocchi recipes to include in this freezer meal session. So this first gnocchi recipe is the sausage gnocchi sheet pan meal. Now, we love sheet pan meals around here, so this one is like a double whammy because it's gnocchi and sheet pan. Into your large freezer bag, you're going to add some andouille or chorizo sausage that's been sliced and halved, then some purple onion in large chunks, some orange, yellow, and red pepper in large cubes, minced garlic, oregano, salt, and a bit of olive oil, and then you're gonna throw your potato gnocchi right in. Now, a note to make on this one is that you wanna use the ready-to-use gnocchi that you find in your grocery store over by the fresh pastas. You don't want to use the shelf-stable one, otherwise you're going to have to cook that up first. You're going to just squish everything together in your bag, take the air out of course, seal it, and freeze it. For the gnocchi sausage skillet, into our large freezer bags, we've got some browned Italian sausage. Now, Christy's kids are working on their spice levels, but they still have a much lower spice tolerance than our kids do. So for our family, I use the spicy Italian sausage, and for Christy's, I use the mild. Now, what I do is I put my bags in a certain position so I know which bags are mine and which bags are Christy's. You can also tell a little bit because the spicier one has a little bit more of a red hue to it. So if you ever mix them up, you can sort of try to figure it out. Anyway, we've got our browned Italian sausage in there. We're gonna add in our gnocchi, some chopped onion, minced garlic from a jar, diced tomatoes. Now this is an example of why it's really good to double your meals, because this is just calling for a 14-ounce can of diced tomatoes. So into each bag, I'm adding half of a 28-ounce can, a little bit of chicken broth, pepper, and basil. Now into a quart-sized freezer bag, I'm going to add some shredded mozzarella cheese and some shredded Parmesan. I'm gonna seal both of those bags after getting the air out, staple them together above the seal, and you've got almost everything you're going to need for this recipe. On the day of cooking, you will need to stir in some fresh spinach, so you will even have some more veggies in there.
This lasagna soup is also by special request, but I will tell you right now, it was not a very hard twisting of Charlotte's arm to make it because it is so darn good. So you can make this with ground beef, but we really do prefer it with ground sausage. So again, Charlotte has the spicy, my family has the mild Italian sausage. This is one of those meals that we're slowly getting there on the spice level, but I did make it for my family. When my dad passed away last year, it was so nice to be able to take freezer meals to my brother's house because, you know, you have the big family gathering and everybody's getting together, and people really, really enjoyed it. But I did have a few cousins be like, oh, this is pretty spicy, you know, and it was with the mild. Maybe it's spicy, maybe it isn't. It doesn't matter what it is flavorful and you're gonna love it. So in our bag, we're gonna have our ground sausage. We're going to add in oregano, basil, minced garlic, crushed red pepper flakes, and salt and pepper. We can't forget the bay leaves and a little bit of fennel seed. I'm not a super big fennel fan, so it's only half a teaspoon. Like, for real, it is all right. It doesn't make things taste weird. And if you like fennel, maybe you can add a little more. And some nutmeg. We also add in some diced onion, now beef broth or chicken broth. If we're making it with ground beef, we add the beef broth. If we're making it with the ground Italian sausage, we add the chicken broth. We are then going to add the fire roasted tomatoes, which I think has a lot to do with the flavor that is coming out of here, plus a can of tomato paste. Now you'll see that I will staple this to a bag of ricotta cheese that has been put into a quart bag. Did you know you can freeze ricotta cheese? It is expensive, and it's one of those things that you think, what am I going to do with this extra ricotta cheese now that I've made my meal? In our case, it worked out for the amount that we had, but you can freeze ricotta cheese and use it later. So we're going to just staple it right to the bag and freeze these together so it'll be ready to go on the day we go to cook.
We do get tired after doing 2 full days of this thing.
Yeah, we do.
But there are some things that we've learned over these years and over these 6,000 or so freezer meals that really speed things up. And so we just wanted to share with you some time-saving tips that, even though they seem small, they add up and make a huge difference. One is that we keep a scoop, like a 1-cup scoop, in the shredded cheese, in the onions, in the ground beef. For ground beef, is it a third or 2/3?
We recently were talking about this in our Facebook group. I don't know if you are a part of our Facebook group, but if you aren't, you should join. It's a really
awesome.
wonderful place. Anyway, somebody had asked the question, and we've always done 2 1/3. Some people did 2 1/2, some do 2 2/3. People were Googling it. Google said 2 2/3, but it also depends on the cut, like how lean your beef is from 1 pound to what you end up with in your cup, and how fine you crumble it. If you have big chunks
True.
versus if it's quite finely crumbled. So, you know, you can't go wrong with 2 and a bit.
2 and a bit. And when we measure out, you'll see in the videos that sometimes we don't always use a teaspoon or a tablespoon. Sometimes we just take the lemon juice and do this. Because we kind of eyeball things, because that saves time too and saves dishes. So if you have to be really exact, there's some recipes where like the amount of seasoning matters, and some where you can kind of eyeball it. So that's another time saving thing. So keeping the scoop in whatever you're using, we keep a spoon in the minced garlic jar, and of course the minced garlic saves time already.
It already
it's already
does.
minced. And the squeezy tube ginger saves us time. Some other things that save time, big one is doing all of one protein at one time. So that way there's no cross-contamination, but also you are not like going to the fridge a million times. You're not worrying about things sitting out too long. You're just working on that one protein, getting it all in the freezer, and then taking out the next protein. Now, a huge time-saving tip is doing your prep ahead. We did our prep yesterday, a little bit on Sunday. I don't know when this video is going to go up for you because they take me a minute to edit them.
They do.
But we did our shopping on Sunday, we did our prep Sunday, Monday, and then this is a Tuesday, Wednesday session. But doing our prep ahead, now I am very fortunate because I have a daughter who is in culinary classes in high school. She loves prep.
She does love prep.
And we pay her to do some of our prep. So I do some of it, Christy does some of it, Christy's kids help, and my daughter, you know, has this little side gig of helping us do our prep, which she's so much faster than me. She's really good at it.
Feel free to pay your children to get this done. Do what you need to do. My kids were not all that helpful. My son had volleyball again. They were at school. My daughter sat down with me last night to help me with the chicken. I prep all the chicken by just taking off the extra bits. Sometimes you find bone, extra tendons, extra fat and stuff, so that it's all ready to go in the bag, because I actually timed myself yesterday. No word of a lie. I started at about 7:30 and I finished at 12:15.
Whoa.
It takes me about an hour to do 4 bags because I'm picky. And so I would have appreciated the help. She sat down to help me and she picked it up and she's like, "Mom, I'm gonna throw up, I can't." I don't want to stand here and done it because I've done that for years. I stood here and prepped the chicken. Charlotte would make the sauce. She would make 3 freezer meals while I was still here prepping chicken. I'd rather sit and watch movies while I prep my chicken, so that when we're here on this day, zip, 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 they are ready to go. I can just start with the sauce and get it in there.
And then another thing is the electric can opener. Do you want to grab it?
Yes, I will grab it.
This thing
This sucker saved us.
has saved us, because sometimes we open more cans than others. Like sessions where we have a lot of soups, sometimes those are very can heavy.
Yep.
When we do our red sauce, which is one of our semi-famous recipes that we're not actually doing in this mega
we're
session,
not.
but we are doing it in January because I have a plan. Yay! So for the red sauce, we need a lot of cans opened. Corn chowder, which we always do, but we're not doing this time, but we are doing in January. That has a lot of, it's a can.
That is one of the freezer meals I have left from our last session.
Me too.
You have one left?
It's because we made 8.
Yeah,
so we each ended up with 4.
doubled it, yes. Because we love it that much too.
So invest if you can in an electric can opener. The thing about freezer meals are that you don't have to buy a lot of tools or equipment. We do now, after all these years of doing it, we have saved so much money on our meals and our groceries, we can afford to buy those things like the can opener, and we're standing on a cushy mat.
Which we really should have done years ago.
Yes, and so we've got 2 of them, so we can each stand on the cushy mats while we assemble or while we do dishes or whatever, and that is also, it's not a time savings, but it's a body savings.
Oh, and we both have runners on because, we really are on our feet for a good 8 or 10 hours today, and we're condensing it down for you. We're saving you a lot of time here. But it doesn't have to be expensive either. These are from Dollarama. These are from the dollar store, and they're big and huge, and I can put 20 cups of onions in there, 20 cups of cheese, 20 cups of ground beef, whatever you need, and they stack in the fridge.
Now, for my prep, because we're doing so many vegetables this time, which is amazing and awesome, and I ran out of room in 2 fridges. So I did have to use a cooler last night for our prepped ingredients. So that's just another tip if you're wondering, like, where am I going to put all this stuff until it gets in the freezer?
Sometimes fall and winter freezer meal sessions work out better because we can cheat by using, the back of my car stays pretty cold. And it's nice to have. It is a bit of a cheat. I'm sure the FDA doesn't recommend you store your food overnight in your car, but if you don't have room in your fridge, you got to pick your battles.
And Christy's got a cooler on my front step always, so that she can pack
only
her
when we do
meals.
freezer meals, not always. That'd be weird.
Right. Good catch there.
Yeah, that would be weird.
We've got her cooler there, so we can stack the meals in that, and then when it gets too heavy, she takes it to her house, unpacks it in her freezer, comes back, and we just
begin again.
Keep going.
Another time saver was when my daughter started to drive. It was actually a huge time saver because we were on a weekend or it was days off school or something, and she was here, and so she would run the meals back. So that saved me, first of all, there's the start and stop. That always takes longer, but also it was a good 15 minutes that I would be gone, and she was able to do that for me.
A few more things is drink lots of water, and I also throw some tea in there, so I've got some caffeine, but that's just me. You don't have to do that. But also plan your meals. Even though we're making so much food, we're actually not making food to eat. This is for later us. Right. And so we plan snacks, we plan the lunch, we plan dinner. So, it all works out a lot better now that we're actually eating, keeping ourselves hydrated, and all of those things that are important to keep your energy level up. And then a good playlist is also super helpful for keeping your energy level up, and that saves time in the end too, because then you've got more energy, you're moving a lot quicker, you're getting things done faster.
And if you can manage it, if you can swing it, even if you have to get on your knees and beg for it, find somebody in your family that is willing to come and wash dishes for you. Charla's mom comes. She didn't used to. We used to do this all by ourselves with little kids around, little kids.
Yes.
But she comes and she stands at the sink and she washes dishes and she opens cans and she loves recycling. And so she will, we recycle anyway, but she takes such pride in cleaning all the cans and making sure our recycling is all perfect. And she's so positive, and she has the Energizer Bunny level energy for a woman of her age. I am just I want to be Charlotte's mom when I grow up.
She is # goals for all of us.
It's true.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I know that's not something you can just pull out of your back pocket. Somebody said in the comments once, I looked on Amazon, but it wouldn't let me order Charlotte's mom.
Oh, funny. That is so funny.
So
if we could bottle her, we would make $1 billion.
That is true.
That is true.
So that is probably our biggest time-saving tip, and I know that's not one that is readily available to everybody, but if you can get help, my mom always taught me many hens make light work.
And she's right.
Yeah.
She is 100% right. So let's get back to those meals.
We're going to pop in, it'll be tomorrow for us, today for you, and give you some money saving tips, some more. I know we've popped them in here and there, but we're going to give you some more of those. And as we go, if we remember more time saving tips, because there are more, we will also put those in as we go. So we're getting to make more meals for you here.
Candy's baked sausage and cheese rigatoni. This is from Candy, who is the Make Ahead meal mom. The link is below for this recipe. Start out by cooking your rigatoni in your pot, and you're going to undercook it by a couple of minutes. Our packaging said 14 minutes for al dente pasta, and we cooked it for 12 and drained it. And I drizzled a little bit of olive oil in it so that it was able to break apart easier later, so it didn't clump up. In our bowl, we're going to add in some minced onion, our Italian sausage, minced garlic, and I mean a lot of minced garlic. And this one is also one you can measure with your heart. We're going to add in a can of crushed tomatoes, some heavy cream, some basil, some salt and pepper, and on the side we're going to be ready with our mozzarella cheese. We're going to mix this sauce together, and then in the bottom of your pan you just put in about a cup of it and spread it evenly over the bottom of the pan, and then you're going to put in half of your rigatoni noodles and then about half of your sauce again. On top of your rigatoni noodles, you're going to sprinkle your mozzarella cheese, and then you're going to sprinkle half of your Parmesan cheese. Then you're going to do another layer, the rest of your rigatoni noodles, again with the sauce, again with the mozzarella cheese, and again with the Parmesan cheese. Now you want to put a layer of thin plastic film on this so that you can keep the air out, but then please make yourself a note to take it off before you go to cook it, and you want to put some tin foil on as well.
Now this is one that we don't normally make meals that you have to make in a tray because they take up so much space in the freezer, but also because they're a lot more work when you've got the layering. But this one is so good that it's worth it.
It is worth it. I've never made it and wished that I hadn't, like, or thought, it wasn't all that worth all that extra work. Yes, absolutely it is.
We are down to the end of our ground sausage. Now, to prep all of this sausage, I had actually done it in 2 batches, mine in one batch and Christy's milder version in another batch, and I did it in the crock pot when I did my prep. This is the 2nd or 3rd time that I've browned the sausage in the crock pot. It works really well, and you can fit an awful lot in if you have a large crock pot like I do. Now for this one, I'm doing things a little bit differently. I am doing the large soups for our family, and for Christy's family with the mild sausage, I'm just gonna leave it in the bowl, and I'm going to mix together her soup right in here. So I'm gonna double the recipe for her, and then I'm gonna portion it into freezer bags for individual servings. That way she can give some to her mom and she can have some for herself for lunches. So this is gonna work really well because not all of her family are fans of soup, and she ends up eating it for days and days otherwise. Into my family's large freezer bags, I'm gonna add some pasta sauce to that Italian sausage, and then some white kidney beans that are drained and rinsed, some diced zucchini, peeled and chopped carrots, diced onion, and minced garlic. In one of my bags, I am going to add the chicken broth, and in the other I'm just going to put a note on the bag to remind myself to add it on the day that I cook this. For the chicken broth, I've poured some into my pasta sauce jar to swish that around to get all of the pasta sauce out and make sure that I don't waste anything. And then I'm going to seal up these bags and get them in the freezer. For Christy's, I'm going to add everything except for the chicken broth into that large bowl with her ground sausage, and then I'm gonna portion it out into individual servings. Now, she has been experimenting with the better than bouillon, so she might add that into her bags, or she can add chicken broth because I will send her home with some of our extras. This mushu pork is another new one that we're trying, kind of throwing together a few different recipes and inventing. We'll see how it goes. The reason that I thought to try a mushu pork is I asked my husband what ideas he had, and he was like, do you remember that Chinese food restaurant we used to go to when the oldest boys were really little? And we used to go to this place in the city that we could not afford to eat out at that time, so it was such a treat and so rare, but if we ever could, we would go there. And what we ordered there was the mushu pork. So I'm like, this is a nostalgic trip down memory lane recipe for me, and we're gonna give it a try and hope that it is as amazing as I remember it being from way back then, because that restaurant has been shut down for like a decade and a half. So into our freezer bag, we've got some pork that's thinly sliced. Now you can use pork chops that are boneless and slice those, or some pork tenderloin. Since this was our only recipe using sliced pork, we just sliced them right into the bag when we were doing our prep. Then in a bowl, we're gonna mix together some orange juice, hoisin sauce, soy sauce, sesame oil, minced garlic, and ginger. Now we like to use the squeezy tube ginger because it tastes super fresh, but of course you save the work of mincing the ginger yourself. We're gonna stir that together in the bowl, and then we're gonna pour half of that in a quart-size bag. And on the day you go to cook this, that will be your sauce. And you're gonna pour the other half in with the pork so that it can marinate and get all good and tender and juicy. Now you're going to put some cabbage. We're just using like a bag of coleslaw because it's already shredded for you, and that saves a lot of time too. And some sliced shiitake mushrooms in another large freezer bag. And you're going to add just a splash of oil into that. Mix that all together in the bags, get the air out, and staple all 3 bags together. Now it is a little tricky to staple all 3 bags together because, especially with the marinade being saucy, they don't want to stay in place. They don't cooperate super well. But do your best and then get those into your freezer together so that on the day you're going to make this, you can enjoy amazing mushy pork, and you can have them in your Chinese pancakes, or if you don't have access to those, you can just use this with tortillas. We'll see how they taste. For the chicken shawarma, when we did our prep, we cubed some raw chicken right into some bags. All we're gonna do is add some olive oil and chicken shawarma seasoning. That is it, just 3 ingredients into here. This is going to make an amazingly delicious meal when served with pittas, hummus, tzatziki, all of the good things. Get your bag sealed up, and that's it. Another new to us recipe is the sheet pan Greek chicken. We just love sheet pan meals because it's less dishes, it's so simple, everything cooks up together. It's usually a fairly full meal. Sometimes you have to add some rice or something on the side, but really you've got your protein, you've got your veggies, and it's all on one sheet pan on the day you cook them. So here we go into our bag. We've got some raw cubed chicken. We're only doing 2 bags because we don't know yet if we like this recipe. So that way Christy can take one home, I can take one home, and we will see.
We'll compare notes later.
Yes. Then we're gonna add in a splash of olive oil, some purple onion, our red, yellow, and orange peppers, some lemon juice, garlic, oregano, salt, and pepper. Now I think this one I'll probably sprinkle some feta cheese on it on the day that I go to cook it, but we're not adding feta today. We're just gonna get that all squished together in the bag, seal it, and freeze it.
And I'm gonna come borrow some feta from you because I never have feta, and you always have feta.
I always have feta. I really like to make for lunches like a souvlaki pita. So it's like got your homemade tzatziki and some lettuce and tomato and purple onion and feta, and it's just, oh, it's so delicious. But anyway, I always have feta.
I'll be the one by your side through the good and the hard times, when we're laughing, when we're hurting. I'll be the one that you need through the love and tragedy, when we're winning, when we're losing. Take my hand,
And just like that, we've got another sheet pan dinner. Surprise, surprise. This is our Cajun sausage and vegetable sheet pan dinner, and we know it's a winner. We have had it over and over and over. Into our large freezer bag, we've got some Ukrainian sausage or garlic sausage that is just sliced into rounds. Usually I slice it thicker than what we've got today, but my daughter was helping with prep and I wasn't very clear on that. But you want to slice yours thicker than what you see here. Then you're going to add some cubed sweet potato, some cubed butternut squash, of course that's peeled and seeded first, and then some zucchini that is coarsely chopped, olive oil, Cajun seasoning, a fair amount of it, and some salt. You're going to squish that all together in your bag. Of course you're going to take that pesky air out. You're going to seal it and freeze it. And you've got 4 more meals all done.
This is my last meal for day 1. Woo woo! This is our Bang Bang shrimp. Now this is a new one to us. We wanted to do it and we're trying to decide how are we going to do the Bang Bang shrimp? How are we going to get the battered shrimp? And you know, if we can use pre-made, pre-cooked meatballs, there is nothing says that we can't use a box of battered shrimp. We don't have to reinvent the wheel for freezer meals. And this is so exciting to have this. We've been really thinking about how to make this. So I've really just gone and taken the shrimp and divided it into our bags. And in a separate bowl, I'm going to add mayo, some sour cream, some Thai sweet chili sauce, and some sriracha, and a little bit of honey. We're going to mix that all really well and divide it between those couple of bags. And this will make a really nice appetizer or something for a date night. Probably not going to feed a whole crowd with this one. And it is probably one that you would want to pick up when your shrimp is on sale, because this one was a pricey one to try out, but it's a new one, so we'll have to let you know how it goes.
I thought since I had my daughter doing some of our vegetable prep for us that I would take advantage of that. And Christy and I are experimenting right now with some holiday side dishes. So I wanted to do a roasted root vegetable one and see how all these different vegetables will freeze and then cook up after. I'm not convinced that all of them will do well. I know that some of them will for sure because we've frozen them in other dishes, but a lot of these are a bit of an experiment. So into our large bags, we're going to put some parsnip, purple turnip, carrot, sweet potato, butternut squash, rutabaga, zucchini, and purple onion. Now I had her cut these into different sizes based on kind of how quickly they cook up. So things that cook up faster, I had her make those into larger cubes, and things that cook up more slowly are in smaller cubes so that hopefully it all cooks up at the same time. I just threw in some olive oil and salt and pepper. On the day I go to make this, I'm going to throw some fresh rosemary in as I roast them. We'll see. This is a total experiment, but it's a good way to figure out what freezes in the root vegetable family and what doesn't. Okay, now this next recipe, which is the last one I'm making on day 1, which is very, very exciting. But this is something that came together and got thrown onto the list at the very last minute because I was at a specialty store looking for kaffir lime leaves, which I could not find for one of the other recipes, and I saw that they had candy cane beets, which was very exciting because those are super hard to find. And this is another thing where for the holiday side dishes, I was wondering, like, how do beets freeze? Could I make those up ahead and have that all chopped so that I'm not getting red hands right in time for our holiday pictures? So I decided to buy the 3 different varieties of beets that they had. So we're doing a roasted multicolor beets side dish here. So into our large freezer bag, we are just adding some golden beets, those candy cane beets that are so beautiful and fun, and regular beets. I'm just again adding olive oil, salt, and pepper on the day of. I might throw some other fresh herbs in there when I roast them, but this is going to be fun to see if they freeze well, if they hold up well.
Here we are, end of day 1, and
83 meals. So I think it's really respectable. It took us 7 hours to assemble 83 meals, which is darn good. Now the kitchen is a little messier than it was this morning, but because of my mom, it's not nearly as bad as it could be.
She's been a dishwashing machine, like a
Amazing.
human. And we had a little bit of time to clear down a bit and get set up for tomorrow.
So we're going to show you what you really have been watching for, which is the big reveal. But it's not the big reveal because that's tomorrow, which is in the same video.
This is the part-time reveal.
This is the halfway through-ish reveal. So
Dun, 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 dun.
this is freezer number 1.
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun.
It is very lovely.
It is very lovely. I do think we should get some dry ice or something so that it billows out when we open it up. But this is pretty amazing all on its own. Now don't forget, this is only half the meals that we made because I have the other half at home in my freezer.
And we're going to show you the other freezer because
Not everything fits.
Not everything fits in one freezer. And Christy's going to share a trick with you. Freezer number 2. Now, that top shelf was from before. That is energy balls, hockey pucks, because we live in Canada. And everyone here, not everyone here, but some people here have hockey pucks in their freezer. There's some pumpkin muffins up there. There's turkey pot pies, which we did with our Thanksgiving leftovers, because in Canada we have Thanksgiving in October. And then there's some individual meals. So those are from before. The individual meals are for my lunches, and they're awesome. The rest are new.
These are not new.
Oh no, the quesadillas, spinach and artichoke quesadillas.
This one's
from
new.
Before.
The Mississippi
Yes.
pot roast is new. The sausage and see, it's squishy. It's new.
It's new.
So here's my trick. We made Candy's baked cheese and rigatoni casserole. Now we made 2 each, and my trick is to put a cutting board in between the 2 so that it doesn't squish on top. So we'll let this freeze like this overnight, maybe a day or 2, and make sure they're good and solid, and then you can take the cutting board out and it won't squish the one below it. These ones here are mine. These ones here are Charla's, because my freezer does not freeze solid overnight for sure. Hers is much better than mine. So here's my tip though. Make sure you remember to take these out in a day or 2, or you'll be like me and you'll be like a month later saying, where's my cutting board? And you're blaming your kids for it because they unloaded the dishwasher wrong, but really you just forgot that they were in the freezer. So remember that they're there and take it out sooner than later. It was when we did the quiches a long time ago, and I had like all my cutting. It was a long time ago. It was with the quiches.
So that is our day 1 total, 83. And we'll
Show
come
them
back
the
over here.
damage in the kitchen. It's not so bad.
This is the kitchen. Not bad at all. That's my new sink.
Oh yes.
It's a very deep sink. I have to stand on my tiptoes to be able to reach the bottom of it. But anyway, we are sore, but not terrible.
I mean, I don't want to go dance or anything, but and once I sit down, I'll stay down. But there's been times like I've hobbled out of here and thinking, is this worth it? What am I doing? It's always worth it. And maybe tomorrow I'll feel that way, but right now I don't. It's been good.
It's been a good day. We played some music, we kept things upbeat, and we had a few like little snafus. I forgot to put them on my list. The white kidney beans. That's why you should join the club so that it makes the list for you, because human error, you know. But anyway, I forgot to buy those, so one of my sons ran out and got those for us, and he got back just in the nick of time.
Yes, he did. She was putting them together saying, well, I'll just make a note that we have to add our beans at the time we cook. And he walked in the door and it was like, ah. And then I am, like, my official title here, if you didn't know, is Director of Spice Management. So Charlotte said, can you just make sure the spice, like, you're gonna go buy the spices, make sure, do a little inventory, and do not buy basil, because she had basil. Who doesn't have basil at their house? Well, she did not. And so I went to my house to go get the basil. Not a flake of basil in my entire house. And so she had fresh basil, so we used some of that, and what was left of the other basil. We're clearing down, and I'm putting spices away, and I find the other basil. So, you know, clear heads, you know, like, get lots of sleep. I did not have a lot of sleep last night because I was up late prepping chicken. But, you know.
Other than the basil and the kidney beans, today was a great day one. We do have, Christy has an injury from cutting onions.
Yes, it's minor. It didn't seem so minor last night. I crazy glued it. I don't know if you can do that. You can crazy glue stuff together sometimes. I crazy glued your husband's finger one time.
Yes,
you
you
guys were
did.
like going on a date or something, and
Yes.
you need stitches. No, wait.
He cut it on a barbecue tool, and then he
Oh,
called
right.
you and was like, could you fix this up for me? Because I was not going to glue his finger. I was not as confident as she was about.
I don't even think I ended up doing it. Didn't he do it himself?
Yeah, he did it with
I think he
Gorilla Glue.
borrowed my Gorilla Glue. So yes, I glued my finger this morning. My Band-Aid is held up. I should write Estoplast a letter and tell them thank you. It probably wouldn't have if we didn't have Charlotte's mom here doing dishes for us all day.
So we're going to see you like in just a second for you. And for us, it's going to be tomorrow morning. So
We'll have different hair and different clothes.
great day one.
Well, it's only been a few minutes for you, but we have had an overnight since we saw you last, and we are at day 2.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Yay for day 2.
Do you know what? We banged out 83 meals yesterday.
It was a really good day 1. We're super happy with it. Okay, the last time we did a mega session, we did our record, which was 153 meals. We'll put a video right there if you want to go check that out. But this time, because that was so exhausting, and also because we know that we have another session coming up in January, which is not too far away. And so we don't have to make this last quite as long this time. So I purposely planned less meals. But as things go, I tend to invent recipes at the end, and
We always have a few things left over anyway, so it is totally fine. In the early days, though, she would be like, no, what? Because there'd be some chicken and some onions and some cheese or something, and I'd be like, well, let's just bag it up and freeze it. And she's like, no, I'm gonna make something with this. And my feet would be so sore, and I would be so tired, and I'd just want to be like, oh, I need to go home. And she's like, I'm gonna make this, and oh, she would. But that's how we got some of our best, like our winners.
yes, some
Were
of our
ones-
best recipes were inventions.
They totally were.
So we finished yesterday all of the cubed chicken, the raw and cooked cubed chicken. We finished all our ground beef. We finished all our pork, which was a lot. We had ground sausage. We had 2 at least kinds of sliced sausage. We had pork for the mushu pork, like sliced.
Yes.
But we just had a lot of pork this time. And today we are doing shrimp
Shrimp and chicken. Chicken.
and some vegetarian dishes.
Yes.
I have to make a mention of this mug because, gotta have the morning tea, get some caffeine to get things going. Although Christy has switched to decaf.
They help with the hot flashes. And that does help me sleep.
But this mug was dropped off by my cousin. Now, funny story. One day we get this package and it comes to the doorstep. And then I went and took it and I was like, this is so weird. This is the wrong address. And it's addressed to my cousin. Like, why would someone drop off something for my cousin here?
The name was
Turns out-
wrong, the address was wrong.
So I couldn't figure this out. I was like, wow, what are the odds that
are
I
the
would get my
odds?
cousin's package and like far different address and all the things. So I messaged her, of course. She was like, I was trying to surprise you and drop that off anonymously. I guess the next time I do that, I should not have my name and address on it.
Occam's razor, when the simplest solution is probably the correct solution.
So at first, I was a little bit curious because this style of painting that's on the mug is not quite my taste, my style. Like, I love it because it's from her, but she pointed out to me that there are some Easter eggs on this mug that are all related to the show The Office, which I am a fan of. So there's the stapler in the Jell-O, there's the chili pot, there's a Dundee. It's really cute. So apparently there's an artist that puts hidden things into famous paintings.
Now you have it in a mug.
Now I have a mug. So we're gonna get to the meals. We've got our caffeine and our decaf. And we'll be checking in periodically through the day and let you know how our progress is and giving you more tips because that's the most important part.
My first recipe on day 2. Woo woo! I'm going to continue on with the shrimp. Again, it is in my freezer. I need to get it out of my freezer so I can make it into something so I can get it back into my freezer. I need the space. So this is fire and ice shrimp. It is a bit of a Charlotte invention, and it was inspired by a girls' trip that we took to Canmore a few years ago, several years ago now, and we went and stayed in a condo, and we ate all the good food, and we watched videos on childhood trauma.
You never know how much fun you're going to have when you go on a trip with me.
But it actually was very helpful because it helped me understand the things that were going on in your family at the time, and I value that a lot because it probably wasn't something I would have watched on my own in my spare time for fun. So I'm actually grateful for that because I think I've grown as a person because we are friends. In a separate bowl, we are going to combine white wine, Thai sweet chili sauce, and whipping cream, and that is it. We're going to make sure that it's combined really well and divide it between the 4 bags. And we're going to zip them up, and they are done. On our shrimp theme, we are making shrimp coconut red curry. Now, I don't particularly like coconut. There are things with coconut milk in it that I will eat. And so for that reason, I think Charla has shied away from recipes with coconut in it. And I really appreciate that because I haven't had celery in a recipe for a good 10 years because she's allergic to it. So
We make compromises for each other.
We make compromises for each other. My husband really likes coconut, and so he doesn't even know that he's missing it because it has just never been a thing at our house. But I'll give it the old college try because I'm an optimist. In our bag, we have our shrimp, and then we're going to set those aside. And in our bags, we're going to add some minced onion, a lot of garlic. Again, I get in the garlic meals today, which is fine. We emptied an entire jar of garlic yesterday. That's hard to do.
Those are very large Costco
Those
jars.
are very large Costco jars of garlic. We're going to add in some minced ginger from our squeezy tube, some red curry paste, some sugar or palm sugar if you have it, some coconut milk like I mentioned, some lime zest, lime juice, and I just squeezed the lime because what was I going to do with a zested lime? And some fish sauce and some salt and pepper. We're going to get it all sealed up and we're going to get the label on it, and then we're going to realize that we didn't add the chicken broth. So then we're going to open it back up and we're going to put the chicken broth in, and then we're going to close it back up and staple it together with our shrimp and get it into our freezer.
We've made a version of this cauliflower soup before. It was inspired by my friend Jameril Stewart. She's got an awesome YouTube channel if you want to check that out. This one is our tweaked version, I guess, because that one we found a little bit cheesy for us, and so we're trying something a little different, but it is still inspired by her cauliflower soup recipe. Into our large freezer bag, we're going to add some cauliflower. Now we're using fresh, but you could use frozen. And we're going to add some shredded cheddar cheese, chopped onion, minced garlic, some butter, heavy cream, some cream cheese that's been cubed, and some vegetable or chicken broth. If you want to make it vegetarian, of course, you're going to use vegetable broth. A little bit of pepper and salt. And again, for your broth, you can add it on the day of cooking. Just make a note on the bag, which is what we usually do with soups because, again, just takes up less space in the freezer. You're going to just get the air out of there. It's a little bit more difficult with this one because of the awkwardly shaped cauliflower, but just do your darndest. And you're gonna get that one into the freezer. So I've switched to wild cherry Pepsi, which I almost never have anymore. So this is like once every few months now.
Yes,
but
you do seem to
need
save it up for free, like for our mega sessions.
Yes.
And I'm drinking good old water. I am making it more exciting by putting it in those glasses, those cups that change color when they get hot or cold. And it has my name on it because Charlotte has the same cups, and if I don't have my name on it, I might never see it again.
It's true. Our house is the abyss.
It's kind of funny.
So I thought of some more time-saving tips just kind of as we've been going along. So I wanted to share those. One is that you might notice in those clips where you see us like scurrying around the kitchen, that before we ever get to assembling a recipe, we actually go through the recipe and we get out every single ingredient. We get out the spices, we get out whatever we need from the fridge and whatever we need from the pantry, because two reasons. One is it does save a ton of time to just do it all at once. The second being what we discovered, well, I mean, we've discovered this 1,000 times.
Right.
But when I went to pull the ingredients yesterday for the sausage zucchini soup, I figured out that I had forgotten to buy white kidney beans. Now, had I not gotten all the ingredients first and been throwing things in my bag and then discovered that I still needed white kidney beans, then, I mean, you do still have an option. You can write a note on the bag to add them on the day of serving. But in this case, I was able to send one of my sons to go get white kidney beans. I was able to put that recipe aside, work on something else, and then, do it properly, right?
Yes. Yes, and as you saw in last night's video, he showed up at the nick of time.
And then the other tip that I thought of is sometimes when we're doing our prep, if we only have that protein for one meal, like the mushu pork, we only had the pork slices for the one meal and we had to prep them by slicing it, then I will put that directly into the freezer bags because you're using less dishes, which we like.
Which is also a time saver.
Huge time saver. But also, you're already getting it in the bag, so you already have your recipe started. You might as well, as you're slicing it, just add it directly in the bag. We do that sometimes with a cooked cube chicken, which we did this time too. But even for my veggie beef, because I don't know if you noticed, but Christy uses real beef for her meals, ground beef meals, and I use veggie beef most of the time. So I have a Mexican veggie beef and the original. We only needed the original for one recipe, and so I only had 2 bags.
Right.
So after I prepped it, I put it, separated it into the 2 bags, and then, less dishes, so that's a time saver, plus you've already started your recipe because it's already in the bags. So just tiny little things like that make a big difference. We're gonna get to doing some more meals. We are getting close. We can see the finish line.
We are getting to the finish line, and it does feel good. And how are you actually feeling? Because it's been long, but I feel okay.
My energy is still really good, and
music helps.
Music helps. Having a friend to do it with helps the very most.
Absolutely.
We've gotten tons of visiting done, and I feel like even though we see each other all the time, sometimes we just don't get to visit. And there's often, again, we've established my house is chaotic. There's a lot of kids everywhere. And so sometimes we can't visit that much because we get a lot of interruptions. Right. And there's a lot of ears listening.
Right. So if we are going to talk about spicy things, we go to my house.
That's true.
Lots of times we go on a walk and we're not done talking on our walk. I have these big red chairs on my front porch, and so we go sit in my chairs and finish our talk.
We have had some really interesting talks in your red chairs.
Yes, they have.
They're the Adirondack chairs.
Adirondack chairs from Costco. They were my birthday present for my 40th birthday.
That's true.
So nice.
Okay, we're going to share some money-saving tips next time we pop in, but here's more recipes. Okay. We both had to get on camera to tell you about this recipe because we were that excited.
It all started with Love is Blind. Well, for me it did. You probably had at least heard of it before.
I had heard of it before Love is Blind, but that's when my curiosity was really piqued.
Yeah.
So this is our attempt at making shakshuka. We are super excited. We've been talking about this actually for months.
Ridiculously long time.
We're okay, so what happened to make this recipe a reality? This is craziness. Is first, I had heard about it before, but then we heard about it on Love is Blind, and we started talking about have you ever tried shakshuka? No,
I've never even heard of shakshuka. There was 2 people on Love is Blind. I don't know if you know the premise of Love is Blind. It's trash TV. It doesn't matter. You talk to each other in these pods through an opaque window. You can hear each other, but you can't see each other. And then you fall in love with somebody you've never seen. Of course, because it's TV, they're all gorgeous anyway. It doesn't matter. But this one like he was a down-home country boy and she was like a city girl who grew up in, like she was Israeli, but she was
wealthy and she's funny, but anyway, they're cute.
Awesome. And they fell in love and she's like, what do you like to eat? And he's like, well, I don't know. I like to make shakshuka. And she's like, on the floor. She was on the floor. You make shakshuka. And I'm like, I have to Google shakshuka. I don't know.
Like he really is this like down home country boy. And shakshuka is like a North African or Middle Eastern dish. Like it is not something you would expect him to know, first of all. But anyway.
And then they fell in love and then they got married.
Maybe we shouldn't give that part away, but it was quite a few seasons ago. Okay, so
back to the shakshuka.
We're like figuring out what is shakshuka, how are we gonna make it, how are we gonna freezer mealize it? Like this is important stuff here. And so I Googled the name of a city that's close to us and shakshuka, thinking like there must be a restaurant that I can try this at, because a lot of our freezer meals are actually inspired by things I try at restaurants, and then I try to create a freezer meal out of it, and it has worked really well for us in the past.
It really fire and ice shrimp. You got to try it.
Totally. Or our what is that? The
Moroccan stew.
Oh, yum.
Which was also a breakfast item.
It was.
So weird.
And shakshuka can be a breakfasty thing or an appetizer-y thing because you cook poached eggs in this sauce. And so we're not doing the egg part as a freezer meal, but all the rest of it is a freezer meal. And then the day of, you can just, poach your eggs right here in this lovely sauce. So anyway, I Googled the city, shakshuka, nothing. No restaurant anywhere here does shakshuka. And then like months later, and we're talking, and I'm saying to her, like, I'm gonna have to wait till I go on vacation somewhere so I can eat the shakshukas, so we can even see if I like it, so we can see if we're gonna make it into a freezer meal. And then I go to meet a different friend. I don't know if you know this, but I do have friends other than Christy, and she has friends other than me. So,
it's true. It's true. I'm meeting new people all the time. Can I tell them about Saturday?
Sure, of course.
There's a thing that's like sweeping Facebook right now. It's called the Mrs. Roper Romp, where people, and I think it was started by men, but Mrs. Roper from Three's Company. We all know who Mrs. Roper is if you are at least over the age of 35, 40. Sorry. And so you wear a caftan, which is like a really long, ornate, flowy overdress, a house dress type thing, and you wear a brown wig or a red wig and the big glasses, and you look like Mrs. Roper, and then you all dress up like Mrs. Roper and you all get together. So on Saturday I am going to a Mrs. Roper romp in our city,
and she doesn't know anyone else who's going. She's just that outgoing,
meeting these people, and we will meet each other at the Mrs. Roper romp at this place. We've established where we're going to meet. And I'm going to go make new friends. Like, I love Charla and everything, but I have room in my life for a few more friends. And if they want to dress up like Mrs. Roper with me, that's totally okay.
I love it. It's so fun.
Back to the shakshuka.
Christy always has fun ideas like this and is always up for like doing weird, wild, and crazy things. So
I will do the weird, wild, and crazy things. I will be that friend.
And I will just go to restaurants in foreign countries to try different dishes and bring them back to you.
You're going to go to the Middle East so you can have authentic shakshuka.
Someday, maybe. So, I'm out with a friend who was not Christy, and I'm meeting her for coffee, and it's this great little cute like local place, and it's awesome. But usually they just have like bakery items and your coffee things. I always get a London Fog, that is like a fancy tea latte for those that don't know. I think everybody knows, but I'm meeting her there, and they have a breakfast menu and just a few things, and it's handwritten. And I guess it changes all the time, but that particular day they had shakshuka, and I think I texted Christy like that, and I was like, I just ordered shakshuka. And so it came, and it had like a crusty bread with it, and so you could dip it. Now, I had mine without eggs because I'm a little bit weird about eggs. I love them. I'm just picky about the type of egg, which I know makes me like very strange and peculiar, but I'm picky about
It's okay to have
eggs.
food hang-ups.
And I have them. So
Me and coconut.
I didn't have the egg, but I did try the sauce, and I was like, oh, like when you dip the bread in it, I was thinking like I could see how this would be so appealing. Really good flavors. The one I tried didn't have a lot of kick to it, and I thought, I think I'd like it better if it was spicier, because I like most things better if they're spicier. So today we're doing 2 versions of shakshuka because we're gonna experiment. We can each take home one of each version, and then we can see which one we like better, and the one we like better can go in the club. So I'm really excited, and I'm gonna tell you about my 2 invented versions of shakshuka. No idea if I have done this right, but I've got my less spicy and my more spicy. They have a few other variations too, but here we go. Into version 1 shakshuka freezer bag, we are putting 2 cans of fire roasted tomatoes, a diced onion, some minced garlic, some fresh diced red pepper, smoked paprika, chili powder, cumin, and parsley. Now, in most of the versions I read about, those seasonings seem pretty common. Some of them also had harissa, so in the future we might try a harissa version, but for now we're doing this. So into our version 2 shakshuka, we are going to again add fire roasted tomatoes because I don't want to change them up too much, because then we're not going to know what was the reason we liked it and what wasn't. Then some diced onion, minced garlic. Now here's where we deviate a little bit. Instead of those fresh diced red peppers, we're going to add some sliced roasted red peppers from a jar, and we're going to add some sliced banana peppers because that's going to kick up the heat. So we're gonna again add the smoked paprika, chili powder, cumin, and parsley. We're gonna get the air out of our bags, seal it, get it in the freezer, because then we can freeze it, thaw it, and make it so we can tell you what we think of it and tell you which version of our shakshuka invention is better.
Now, how many eggs can go in it? Because I'll probably do that. You won't do, well, you might do your eggs.
I will do with my eggs. So 5 or 6 eggs.
Oh,
and
like
you kind
lots.
of make like a well for each egg, because you'll notice that the sauce is quite thick.
Okay.
And so you're gonna, bring it to a simmer, and then you're gonna make a little well with your spoon, and pop your eggs in there and cover it so that your egg can poach. Now, I like mine to be poached hard, so I'm gonna have to cook mine for longer. But if you like it soft, and then you can get that, the yolk, right? And do the thing.
I will do that.
And then you want to serve it with like a crusty bread or a toast or something like that. But I think like more of like a crusty, good thick bread. And then you can scoop up like your runny yolk if you like that.
Oh yeah.
And your sauce. So, amazing. We're gonna try shakshuka.
Okay, we have to do it on the same day.
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay. All right, we'll make a plan. We'll get back to you. The sun-dried tomato chicken with basil is a new recipe for us. We're starting out with our chicken thighs in the bag. We're adding in our sun-dried tomatoes that are sliced and drained, because these ones come in oil. We're going to add in minced garlic, some white wine, some fresh chopped basil, some salt and pepper, and sort of like the coconut shrimp, we're gonna seal it all up and put the sticker on and realize we forgot to add an ingredient, and it was honey. So we're gonna open it up, add the little blobs of honey, and then we can seal it up and get it into our freezer.
This is a new one. I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, I am too. I think all the flavors are really good. It has a lot of promise, and we like the idea of it so much. We made four.
Our Mediterranean chicken sheet pan meal is a really good one. Plus, it's another way for us to use up our mega-sized jar of capers, which we've been trying to get rid of for months. Not that we don't love capers, and we'll buy another mega-sized jar someday, but into our large freezer bags, we've got those chicken thighs that Christy has thankfully gone ahead and trimmed for us. Then some purple onion chopped into really large chunks, some sun-dried tomato and oregano salad dressing. Now, 1 bottle of sun-dried tomato and oregano salad dressing will make 4 of these meals exactly. So that's a good thing to know. Then some minced garlic, Greek seasoning, dried or fresh mint, lemon juice, those capers. Now, it calls for 2 tablespoons, but again, I'm trying to get rid of the capers, so I used a lot more than 2 tablespoons. Then some pitted Kalamata olives, and that's it. We're gonna get the air out of our freezer bag, get that into the freezer so that we can have a really easy sheet pan meal. Now, when you cook this one, you're going to add some grape tomatoes as you cook it, and then towards the end, you're gonna sprinkle it with feta and put it back in there to crisp up. Now, I know that today we haven't been telling you the cooking instructions for these meals or what to serve it with, that kind of thing. In our regular freezer meal videos, we do all of that. We often will show you what it looks like when we cook it up, how we cook it. We give you all kinds of ideas of how to serve it. But for today, with doing so many meals, this video would be like 4 hours long if we did that. So we just tell you how to get it into your freezer bag. We do put the links below in the description so that you can get the full cooking instructions, other than the ones that we're inventing today or trying new to us this time. Other than that, you will find the links for all of these below and you can look that up yourself. But if you are looking for all of it, like if you want to see how it works out, what it looks like in the end, what we do, you know, on the day that we actually make these, then tune in to some of our other videos, because we've got a whole channel of videos and most of those have all of that right there for you.
Hot honey chicken sandwiches are so good. So good. So you could do it with chicken breasts because you do this in the slow cooker. In this case, we're going to do it with chicken thighs. We're going to add in cayenne pepper, a lot of it. These are spicy, but also they're sweet because you're going to see later. We're going to add in smoked paprika, some minced garlic, a bit of brown sugar, an entire cup of honey. Now, I am extra glad that I took the extra effort to liquefy the honey that was there earlier. And we're gonna also add in a little bit of vinegar and some butter. This is going to go into my crock pot as soon as I get out of here.
Freezer meals already save a ton of money. You're not hitting the drive-thru. You're not picking up convenience foods. If you want to go to a restaurant, you're going because you want to, not because you forgot to think of what to make for dinner. You're not ordering delivery pizza, skip the dishes, DoorDash, any of those kinds of things. You can just go right to your freezer and kind of shop from there. All the work is done. We always say, like, future you is gonna thank
today you. Because it is a lot of work. Our feet are sore, our hips get sore. Last night my back was pretty achy. And then we got up this morning and we're at it again. But future me will be so glad. And actually already like 2 hours future me is already happy because I'm gonna one of these I'm gonna get into the slow cooker right away. And then I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going to band camp as a chaperone for my son. And so I know that my husband and my daughter will still have stuff to eat. And they're gonna have that rigatoni that you saw yesterday.
Oh, it's so good.
It is so good.
Now, you don't have to start with like a giant mega session like this.
In fact, you probably shouldn't.
Totally, because it can be discouraging because it is so tiring and then, you know, you're thinking like, why did I do this? And when we first started, we would actually have that conversation with each other like, why do we do this?
We would have to remind each other about how future us would be happy about today us. Yes.
Yeah. But if you start by doubling your dinner, or there is a link in the description down below for our free freezer to sheet pan cooking class. And if you do that class, you have everything about that class is free. You get a PDF with your recipes, your shopping list, your prep list, and your printable labels. So you've got everything you need. You will end up with 10 full family dinners. And if there's only 1 or 2 of you, you can go ahead and mix those up in a bowl and divide them into smaller bags and then cook them in a toaster oven rather than your full oven. So either way, you can make that work for you, and that's a really nice way to get started. Either doubling your dinner or doing that class.
Yes, and if you have been thinking about joining our Freezer Meals 101 Club, if you sign up for the class, maybe you'll get a coupon for a discount. Maybe. And if you aren't familiar with the Freezer Meals 101 Club, all of that is available to you on our website in the membership. You can build your own meal plans from the recipes we have there. Plus there's a way you can add your own recipes too. You can print out your own shopping list, or you stand there at the grocery store with your shopping list and you can do it right on your phone. You can get a prep list, and we have printable labels, and you can select which ones you need, and you could do it just like us. And then you can kind of start to scale up.
Yeah,
right?
And the more you can scale up, the more money you can save with this.
Because then you can start buying in bulk. And we've already talked about how we have the 15% off day, we had the K-Slot sale, and we hit that magical September where they intertwine. And because it only happens like once or twice a year, so it's a big deal. But we save so much. We really save so much.
And even being able to buy, you'll notice, because today is our chicken day, that we are doing 6 chicken recipes and 4 of each of the recipes. One of the reasons for that is I had chosen 5, but I knew Christy's gonna buy 6 because at Costco, it's a little bit less money if you buy it in the cases.
Yes, it is.
And to do that amount of meals, what's 6 times 4? 24?
24.
Right? To make 24 meals, you just need 2 cases. And so of the chicken thighs. So I knew when I added the 5 recipes to her Costco list that she's gonna bring me 6, and then I'll invent a chicken recipe, which is always fun for me.
Yes.
And then we end up with 4 more meals, which is awesome. So Costco does have some extra discounts the more you buy
in a warehouse pack. Now, when I was there, I want to say the only chicken breasts that we really had, we had the chopped chicken breast, and then we had the cooked chicken breast, which we got at a 15% off. And it was
a huge sale. It was half
It was a
price.
huge sale. It was half price, and it was the frozen chicken breasts. So we cooked those up and cubed them. But if we needed chicken breast that particular day, it was the $6 off per tray of the chicken breast, which is a really good deal, and it's actually a better deal than if you get the warehouse pack.
So you do have to be careful and watch your prices.
We wrote a book. We wrote
yes,
a book
we did.
about grocery saving tips when freezer cooking, and it's on the website. We should probably throw a link on for that.
Yeah, we can throw a link.
Because
in the
I actually break down the math on exactly that situation, because the day I was doing recon for the book, and that day that was exactly what was happening. And I've got the math broken down there for you, how to find the best deal, how to compare things so you can take it down to the ounce or the 100 grams or,
And even if you are not yet cooking in these large quantities like we are, there's still savings in tiny little things like when I was saying doubling your dinner. Now, if you buy a 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes, that is cheaper than buying two 14-ounce cans. So if your recipe calls for 14 ounces and you double it, you're able to use that 28-ounce can. And it might sound like, we're talking $1 here, $1 there, and we are. But when you put that over the course of many ingredients, many days in a month, we have club members that are saving between $200 and $800 a month, like a month. Now, some of them, they calculated what they used to spend on takeout, so of course that number is large. But in the $200 to $400 range, that's just on groceries.
That's just on groceries, and it's just something you can do too. We're showing you how. We are really showing you how.
For years, people have been amazed at what I spend on groceries because, for a family of 9, they're thinking my grocery bill has to be double what their grocery bill is for a family of 4, but it's usually less. So that's the magic of freezer cooking. This citrus chicken is a pretty easy one, but very flavorful. We've got our chicken already in the bags. Then we're gonna add some honey garlic sauce, orange juice, red wine. You notice that we're using the red wine recipe later on the day too. However, we didn't actually drink any, but my husband did have a glass. Anyway, then some brown sugar, some ginger from that squeezy tube, pepper, Mrs. Dash extra spicy seasoning, or if you don't have access to that, you could just use red pepper flakes here, some minced garlic, and you're gonna get all the air that you can out, seal it, get it in your freezer, and you'll have 4 more meals done and be that much closer to not having to cook again for a very long time. We had bought an extra tray of chicken because that way you can get them in the case, and so with the extra, 2 trays of chicken, we are making this invention that is, I'm naming it Tex-Mex Crock-Pot Chicken just because I'm tired and I can't think of a better name for it. So we've got our chicken in the bag. We're adding in some diced onion because we have diced onion left, some taco seasoning, minced garlic. Now we're gonna add in some cubed cream cheese, half a pack, so 4 ounces into each, and some drained kernel corn, black beans that are drained and rinsed, some salsa. Now I added 1 cup of salsa and then I asked Christy, do you think this is enough? And she's like, maybe add half a cup more and
then
see.
We'll see.
And so
you can always add more. You can't take it out.
That is a good point. So we then added another half cup and I thought, actually, that looks pretty good. I'm not gonna add the full 2 cups that I was considering there. So I'm glad I listened to her on that. And then a can of diced green chilies. I think this one's gonna be really nice. And it's similar to some of our other recipes, but not the same. And the reason that I made it is because in that case lot sale, we bought both black beans and kernel corn. And so this is a great way to use them. And we always have tons of salsa. So this is perfect. And we'll get that into the freezer, and we are so close, you guys. We are so close. We are almost there.
We are in our home stretch.
We're very close.
Stick with us. We got a few more recipes to show you.
We'll share the total when we're done.
And stick with us because you get to see the payoff, which will be Charla's beautiful freezer.
It is pretty gorgeous.
It's getting there, isn't it?
We had a little bit of cooked cubed chicken left over, and so I'm inventing a recipe with what we have left, so it'll make 2 meals, one for each of our families. We can give it a try and see what we think. This is the one pot chicken and mushroom pasta, because we love those one pot meals. Into our large freezer bags, we're putting some cooked cubed chicken, sliced mushrooms because we had some left after our ground beef stroganoff yesterday, some sliced purple onion, salt, pepper, minced garlic, thyme, paprika, and some heavy cream. We're going to put 1 cup of Parmesan cheese in a medium bag and staple that to our large bag. On the day of cooking, we are going to need to add some chicken broth, but I don't want to add it into the bag because we're getting short of freezer space. I decided that we absolutely had to make a Nasi Goreng recipe. This is the first iteration, so I'm not sure how it'll turn out. We might have to try some other versions of it in future freezer meal sessions if this one isn't quite right. But the reason that I needed to do a Nasi Goreng recipe is my husband is Dutch, and when Indonesia was a Dutch colony, apparently some of their food must have made its way into the Dutch culture because my husband grew up eating Nasi Goreng. Every Dutch friend of mine grew up eating Nasi Goreng, and so it's just something that I needed to have a freezer meal version of so that I could do it this way instead of the only other way I know how to do it is how my husband's mom does it, which is to buy a little packet from the Dutch store and mix your meat and rice into that packet. So we're gonna do it this way. I think it's going to be tastier. It's definitely gonna be healthier and have less preservatives in it. Into our large freezer bags, we are adding some cooked, cooled rice. Now it is important that the rice is cooled before you add it into the bags. Otherwise you can end up with condensation, and that doesn't do well in your meal or in your freezer. Then you're gonna add in some minced onion, minced garlic, shredded carrots. We like to buy our carrots pre-shredded at the grocery store in the produce section because it saves us a few steps there. Some shredded cabbage, fish sauce. You could also use shrimp paste instead of your fish sauce, but we're trying it with fish sauce today. Soy sauce and sambal oelek. I am adding more sambal oelek into our families than Christy's families because it is spicy, and some honey, and I'm thankful that Christy melted that already so it's easy to use. Then we're gonna just add in some salt and pepper, give that a shake around, and then open the bag back up to get more of the air out, seal it again, and get it into the freezer. I'm really interested to see how this one turns out. Because the rice is cooked already, it should cook up super quickly. We're just basically going to cook that up in a wok or a skillet. And the other thing about this recipe that's nice is there's lots of variations that you can do. You could add in some pork or shrimp or chicken or whatever. So it's a nice sort of everything but the kitchen sink recipe. And we'll be interested to see how that works out. Okay, now I had some ingredients left, and I always, continue to invent. But all that I had left at this point was some cauliflower, sweet potato, squash, and onion. And I was quite tempted to make our curried butternut squash soup because it's got the sweet potato and squash that it calls for, as well as onion and garlic and ginger and curry paste and things like that. And we had everything we needed for it. and it's so, so, so good. But we did make it recently, and I have some lunch size, individual size bags of that still in my freezer. So that's one reason I didn't want to do that. The other being that when I was going to do that, what I was going to do with the cauliflower is make our cauliflower chickpea sriracha sheet pan meal. But then my cat ate the chickpeas while they were draining in the sink. So that plan had to go out the window, and when you're doing these mega sessions, you have to be willing to kind of go with the flow sometimes.
You got to turn on a dime.
And so we needed a new plan. So instead of having the curried butternut squash soup, which I love and I wouldn't have been sad to have more of, and having that roasted cauliflower and chickpea sheet pan, which is so good with the sriracha, I instead made a roasted cauliflower, sweet potato, and squash sheet pan meal, because then I could use everything all at once. It did mean we're ending up with one less recipe, but whatever.
Who knew cats like chickpeas?
I did not know cats would eat chickpeas. I mean, here we were the last couple days protecting our chicken and our fish. Like, we're protecting the shrimp, but we never thought to protect the chickpeas. Okay, so into our large freezer bag, we're gonna add that cauliflower, sweet potato, and butternut squash, then some olive oil, lemon juice, red pepper flakes, cumin, paprika, salt, pepper, and garlic. That's it. It should be good. It should work. We'll see. All of those things we know freeze, so it should be great. Just throw it onto a sheet pan, and we'll have either a side dish or a main, depending. I don't know.
It'll be good. Who needs chickpeas?
Who needs chickpeas?
Who needs chickpeas?
It is the end of day 2. It is the end.
It is the end. It's the end. And we made good time.
Awesome time.
Our feet are sore. Our backs are sore.
I'm actually not doing too bad. My energy is still pretty good.
Yeah.
And we made such good time. I'm excited. I know we made less than last time, but not a lot less.
Not a lot less.
Our grand total is 129. Now, it was going to be more, but I was draining chickpeas in my sink, and one of my cats jumped up, and who knew that cats love chickpeas?
He was eating the chickpeas right out of her sink, and so we're like, ew, first of all, and then also that was the end of the chickpeas, so she had to like pivot. Yeah.
I pivoted, and so we have 129 freezer meals, which I think is really respectable.
Really, really good. And our time is phenomenal. Like, it is, early afternoon, and we just slipped right through
banged that out.
Yeah, we did.
Thanks to my mom, who helped with dishes.
Oh my goodness.
Because we couldn't have been done this quickly without her help. And she left partway through today. She had a meeting to go to, and we really felt it.
We missed her. Oh my God. We had to wash our own dishes.
Can you imagine?
Yes. Okay.
The big reveal.
The big reveal. You are here for the big reveal. You've been with us this entire time to see the beauty of Charlotte's freezer. Let's do it now. Oh, I almost opened up the wrong one. Do you want to see the messy fridge? Okay, here's the freezer. Are we ready? Dun, 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 dun. Ta-da! Isn't that beautiful?
That's pretty gorgeous. Like, have you ever seen such beautiful sights?
That is 3 months worth of meals. That's not even all of them.
That's not even all of them. You want to see the other freezer?
Let's go to the other freezer. There's no psych out here because it's just the standalone freezer. Da, da, da. So you can see mine are gone because I took them home today, and somebody was smart and went and took the cutting board out because these froze overnight. And that's it, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here for this giant marathon. It does make it go a little quicker to have you guys along.
Yes, it does.
And we're gonna put a video over there to show some other awesome, it's the other way? I don't even know. That way, to show some other awesome meals. I think we'll put up the one of Costco things, because we did talk about Costco today. So that's just a Costco shop, and how many freezer meals you can get from that. It was pretty impressive, actually.
It was actually really good.
So thank you again for being here, and
We'll
happy
see you next
cooking.
time. Happy cooking.